The FBI starts hitting certain people for using the black market, you know? I mean, and they steal your money from you.
The FBI is not involved in the Secret Service.
Oh, yeah, well, the NSA, actually. NSA.
No, the Secret Service. The Secret Service has direct responsibility for fiscal, treasury.
Well, is it? No, there's also this whole FinCEN thing,
They're getting
financial.
involved in this stuff now.
There's a whole bunch of.
Well, yeah, we're talking about creating a legal tender.
Yeah.
The one that's in charge of the Secret Service.
They're
They're not supposed to counterfeit.
they don't like it when little people make all the money. They don't like it at all. Happiness for politicians is power and money and they take your reward. So they have their priorities. They don't necessarily, not necessarily like someone happy about somebody who wants technology and up to the easy money. I think they're really happy about that concept. They got to defend to making the money or start making the money. And so they need to regulate things and change.
There we go.
So that the flow goes in their way.
Earbuds work better when they're plugged into the right.
In the meantime, we can all somehow touch it. Maybe got some glue.
Got it, thank you.
We pay people that know how to use it. That's the main answer. The easiest way to really start is learn the simple stuff, which is on Wikipedia. Wikipedia and see what Bitcoin is. And then you go to other URLs and look at the sites to see what they do. And then download an app. Many apps now. Download an app and experiment with it. See how it works for you, but don't put a lot of money into it. And play with it. See what you can buy. So ATMs now. In many countries. So you go to an ATM, stick a computer against it, and it gives you back dollars. Right? And it's Bitcoin, so it's dollars. When you give it dollars, the system makes it gives you Bitcoin. And it's about time too. Everybody feels we don't need it. It's for us. And the less regulation, the better. So just like the internet. The less the internet gets regulated, the better we are. The less this stuff gets regulated, the better we are. But let me see this. If you want to talk about international currency, this is the first sign of the real international currency. First ever. Because every country has its own thing. They want their currency. This doesn't belong to any country. It's the international currency.
I read online that Edward Snowden is starting to consider Russian citizenship. Edward Snowden, so he kind of like excluded the government in terms of all their surveying these internet and spying on the and then he like fled from America and he made it to Russia.
In Russia. Yeah, so you can't get out.
Yeah. So he's considering.
Actually, you can, because that's across the borders.
Yeah. Their citizenship process takes 5 years. And so he's thinking about it, he's not sure. But he's stuck there, so I don't know what he's doing.
In Russia, you pay anybody a few bucks and they'll tell you to what? What do you have to mainland next to it? So many countries.
He's good at
We got 1,000 countries all over the country.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
If you want to.
Hey, you made it.
You know about him? He's getting good publicity.
So the feed is up.
Yeah.
We're already broadcasting, so watch what you say.
Oh.
Well, from Russia, you take trains, you go to Poland, Poland,
What's the Wi-Fi like around here?
It works.
Actually,
Just keep calling to them. Do you have a key?
Huh?
Do you know who has a key?
Yeah, I should introduce you.
So, you can just take some trade, pay some money, plus support it. Get the phone. Yeah, you have to spend about 3 hours. Yeah. China does, Russia does, Iran does. Oh, right.
Here we go.
Yeah.
I guess I need it too. Where do I
It's
look?
on the back of the
Whiteboard. Oh, I see
Most of this group goes across the street. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's a restaurant open, you can eat. Oh, you're like me, Heather.
Hey.
Tell the
Doing my presentation to the email out.
you wish, why not? What do you guys do here?
Dude.
That was us. And you also didn't show up to look at it.
Dude, I told you, dude, I'm busy, man.
I know.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been looking at the incident.
Oh, no, I haven't. I've been looking on this.
No, dude.
Oh, wait, maybe it was under A or something.
So here, Ali.
So you use the term,
Give me a second, let me make sure I can do this.
corporation.
Oh, yeah. Which?
Oh, that's the wrong one.
Okay, so we're gonna need something to connect to the projector.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a micro HDMI. Will that work?
Let's see what you got.
Let's
Let's see what
What do you call it?
what did they leave here? Oh, what do you have?
Micro HDMI.
That's all you got?
Yeah, these. You know how these nuances are. That's what I was. I would have another laptop.
No, I have my work.
Okay, that'll do.
Well,
I mean, every in the world is describable by their flow chart symbol to start
adapter
and
chance for
the same.
micro
And you come in and you do something. And maybe you make a decision.
And everything else should work with the, what comes with it.
I'll use that one of those newfangled
Oh, yeah.
ultra books.
They only have micro HDMI.
Don't be shy. Make a decision.
Then it doesn't have.
Where's the adapter?
Well, here's the
This will describe
Oh, okay.
every language out there.
So we'll use mine. You don't have any lines. So you either it's either this standard.
You don't have this?
I was saying it off.
Yeah. He's got this it's a little HDMI kind of
Is that a little common now?
it's becoming, yeah.
Okay, will you send me a link to the Razeghi and we'll
Hey, you're cool, Carolyn. That's
I don't
good.
know what it is and I'm not smart enough to figure it
Yeah.
out, but if you send me a link. to
Yeah,
it,
and we'll send it to you.
purchase it.
Yeah, you could get it at what is it, Tiger Direct or
Let's get this up.
and then you could pay for it in Bitcoin.
Okay, do you need my laptop?
No. Well, I brought another one.
Don't buy it in Bitcoin today. Wait for the price to go back
Okay.
up before you buy it.
So what should she buy in Dogecoin or Litecoin?
That's a good question. I need to look. Typically, you rent the robots to sell that.
Hey, just use cash.
PayPal, that count?
Yeah. there
With
you
the
go.
way the dollar's falling, I would spend all the cash I could as fast as I could.
All right.
Alright, I emailed you to your work email also.
I think I need to get on this.
Center 333. Lowercase.
It's a very low level language. You've got addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Because the original passage was not the teaching. It's to teach you good habits. It wasn't intended to be an efficient language.
Just the enzyme that your body produces to digest the lactose.
mention. You want to eat home this morning?
That was what Pascal did. Because in Pascal, you actually have to define the low-level calls before you define the high-level. So the compiler can go right from the bottom to the top. It's very efficient to compile, which may or may not make it very efficient to run. It depends on what compiler generates.
But it runs on everything.
No. There isn't a single language that runs on everything. That's why
Sure there is. Java.
Yeah, right. And who's writing the code for the latest ARM?
Larry Ellison.
The point is, they're coming out with new processors, and sometimes even new architectures for processors all the time. There's nothing that runs on everything. You have to make it run on everything. Okay? So you want that initial cost to be as low as you can get it.
Everything in my desk is a very limited everything.
Obviously, everybody that says that means something less than what they're set. I mean, it's a marketing statement.
You're right.
Are you new there?
For limited focus people like myself.
What were the first languages? They were machine language, right? So you wrote in a bunch of hexadecimal, you wrote in a bunch of binary, or something like that, and you put it on some cards.
Okay, so what they do is they
Only
one, never lose the pair.
assembly.
Bucket, a single year.
Mnemonic, code
Waiting
eight.
to find the other one one day.
Oh,
You
yeah.
just throw them away. They have to find the other one.
But it had a one-to-one correspondence between machine code and assembly code. Yeah, but it was more than just one. Okay, so you can do the code instead of fancy. Yeah, first translating is reading something, then reading it. Oh, yeah, it's a very important thing. Then what was the language after that?
No one will do it. They're all flat.
This processor, it was used primarily at attempting to do organized intelligence. At the time it was invented, artificial intelligence was that was considered an artificial intelligence problem.
Looks good.
Writing
I don't have any animations, any funny pictures.
Well, yeah, I'm just wondering.
the archetype of the functional language. Yeah.
Oh, so you.
That's actually four. Right.
Meet up on the wall and just for
I can't say C because it made that a seven.
Well, but it's still one of the four early ones. What's the other two? Right, working cool. Now, tell me what any of the subsequent languages have, those four.
Well,
Everything is easy.
Then why are people using this? But why are people still using Fortran?
But I mean, it's like, many of the newer languages, what they take.
Everything has moved into block structure. Fortran has a block structure. Omo always had a block structure called a paragraph. This, if you were smart, you structured it so that you reuse things in big chunks, so that you would write one call into a list and then go on to do thousands of lines of list, even as well as all the correctly interpreted instead of. Yeah, that's what everything is. And then they're arguing over syntax. Should you put a statement with byte? No, because there's a key argument. You separate statements. Well, one language will do a semicolon.
I think this is the Google slide presentation bit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
two
that's a
pages
process
up, down, I don't know if we want to deal with that, or we can try it. I think I got PowerPoint on, so we can do it there.
Download this, we can see if it works. If it works, great. If not, let's do Really do. I'm sure these guys want to see some Bitcoin.
Because what you're doing is you're ending your state. You're ending every state. That's a continued argument over compiler. It's which way is the better way for human beings to look at the problem. Do you look at this and see one block of code, or do you look at this and see?
Oh, I have,
It's continuing
how
argument.
can I do this?
There are new languages left, right, and center all the time in the research environments. And it's like, what more do we need to research? You've got loops, and you've got processes, and you've got decisions.
Presentation mode actually gives you full screen.
Well, that's what I was trying to do, but it's still,
Yeah.
well, there's nothing where you can see one slide
Yeah.
taking up the whole screen. So, I think here's the PowerPoint.
Hopefully when it downloads, it'll
It's
just
a silly argument.
Yeah, maybe if it just did it.
Continually.
Hello. There it is.
almost.
You know, Fortran's got sign goes on in
Oh,
Canada
it's not
because
them down.
Oh, it's
sign
right there.
engineers and scientists.
Okay, there you go.
It's got SINE, COS,
Exciting,
TAN
exciting.
as
Yeah, there you go.
embedded in.
I've never been so excited to see PowerPoint.
I know.
Because
It is running on OS 10, it's a Unix variant.
Wow, so this is what it looks like. PowerPoint. It looks very powerful. It has the word power.
Organize the print as it comes out.
When you
They
set
talk
it up,
about writing
Because
it
it was supposed to be in English. Well,
Yeah, presenter viewer, slide.
no, I think presenter view would be like,
Right.
no, you're.
That's where I was blocker code in the White magazine. The ASIC language.
Yeah, that's what we get, but
They
then
did a.
if you plug it in, maybe it'll automatically adjust and put it out there.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get that about.
What a thought.
Hopefully plug and play is actually plug and play.
Okay, and it's 7:08, so we're good on time. We usually hang out for a little bit,
Yeah,
till about 7:20 or so, and then we'll kick off.
Choose a player, take a
Okay,
turn.
next.
And it was written.
Here, why don't you pull that down?
The verbs were the procedure calls.
okay, check out once we're ready.
Oh, yeah, you want to move it? Yeah, here, let's send it up where you want.
And I like right here, slash, or the way they delimited comments. Did a series of those.
Maybe like here, so that way you don't get in
So
front
there
of
was a
the
verb here, a notion here, and then they had enough English in between the comments to say what the verb, and the verb was a sort of English word.
You want some water?
You can write Pascal like that now. Yeah, a lot of the new languages are adopting this idea that they inserted comments. Whereas Fortran was, you had a number, it was going to be a scalar to a branch to. You had an operation code, and then you had comments, or the entire card was comments. So there were
Let's do
three
this.
fields.
Where's
that
the-
were- This is just interspersed the way you possibly could end up writing your documentation in the code, so that the human can understand it and the machine can understand it. Properly.
If you ever get your coders
It
I use the beat.
it has to be well. Well, I had a manager who didn't want us to write comments because she felt that it was a burden on the training. Because what she wanted the new trainees to do is read the code and see if it's correct. And you know what? I had to solve the problem. That was the source of the problem. The code did one thing and the comments said it wasn't until I started reading the code carefully, pretending I was the computer and executing the code, and I realized that this guy was doing a less than or equal to, and the comment said it was going to be a greater than. Okay. So if you read the comments, the code's smart. If you read the code, you know where it's going wrong. So that's why she didn't want, basically she had chock full of trainees, because she would train them, they would get, 2 or 3 years of experience, and then they go higher off for 5% increase in the pay. So she knew she was going to have enough training coming in. And she didn't want people accidentally writing code that was different than comments. No comments.
have a turn.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a go to Tennessee, yeah.
Well, why don't you come close? See how to do your turn.
She was planning on her training. Anything she did was said no comment. Write the code, and you make sure the code's right. There's enough information that's variable.
We only have 6 characters.
Because this was assembler. 360 assembler. There's enough information in the variable names that you can read it. Just concentrate and do it, and that's the way you'll find all the bugs that we find. Because this system run in the late 60s from every block of 100 lines.
That was another problem.
Yeah,
You
You got any ideas on how to get to the other windows? Just check it out. What I wanted to do was set up like if we could set up mirroring.
I can't believe you guys talked about punch cards. What about punch tape?
I did both.
You did both?
You know where you can just say mirror display.
Yeah.
You want to hear the ultimate on that one? No. Here's the ultimate. I worked on an airline reservation system.
Yes, I remember those many.
Okay, they're still there.
Oh,
In fact, the system I worked on survived the United Continental merger.
It's like we're not seeing anything here.
Yeah.
Well, it's the
Bullshit.
Recognize
Now
that.
check it out. Unplug this.
If you get a seat on an airplane,
Now I've
it has
got
to go
everything.
through the system that I worked on.
It's powered on, yeah. Make sure it shows from the Apple menu, change
There
system
was
preferences.
a function called passenger windows.
Oh, you know what,
You
this
can
thing's
print
not even
out
powered
all
on,
the
wait.
people who were going to be on the airplane.
That
And
might be
you,
it.
and you find out what their
Oh, that's
meals
for
were, and why it was put out,
Cover and then
so that they could make sure they had the right meals on the airplane. No, it was written in system.
power up, hopefully out of effect. But anyways, if it doesn't, go to Apple, system preferences.
It's moved up, as much as possible, it's moved up into C, so that they can start moving around. But it is running on system Z, so it still has the opcodes available, and it's still running, okay? Wow.
Oh, so it should see the other. Okay.
It's been a crude code, and they, at the time I was there, between my wife and I, we changed 40% of it. Two teams of 5 changed 40% of the system.
Does it have enough money to change it into,
Not anymore, okay? Because we were well
Here we
paid,
go.
but we weren't paid as well as the guys are now. Doing the same job, okay? They now farm it out. It's now under the control of Hewlett Packard. And they farm out 99% of the work to the Far East, the Southeast. Okay, and they have a huge, oh yeah, they send the specs overseas, and they, what information? All it's doing is it's counting, no, it's counting seats. It's not counting dollars. We have one batch of code that does the fare quote. It will tell you the price of your ticket. That might be a little sensitive. You know, what is sensitive is taking credit cards now. And they have to control credit card rules. There you go. Okay. So
Up there or
the rest
down
of
arrow?
the rest of the code gets sent out.
Oh, look, you get your presenter here too.
Yep.
Awesome. You're gold.
So what you been working on? Oh, yeah.
Huh?
You got it. What you been working on that show? What happened today?
Where they accumulated.
It's a busy day. So, few servers to reposition. Handle some load.
So I'm glad it's taken care of.
It's slowly processed. Hey, Eric. That's good. Hey, this is solid.
Thank you.
He's worked with community years.
Oh, nice.
Amongst other people. It's a
Brad Wolf, have you worked with that too? Me and Ethan, Brad Wolf worked together, so I thought maybe he's my new manager.
Before my time. From Japan? That's they work together. Oh, Ligation.
You from Verizon?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's the first time.
yeah. No, he was. There was people were joking around in email, and he offered if it's a big boy, whoever made the best job. So I'm like,
That's how I ended up here. For some reason,
I didn't do any good.
No, you
got my
didn't
August.
the funny enough truth.
I got my August, but I got my August booking, so
That's funny.
So,
Got his priorities together, yeah.
Oh, I don't recognize the constellations or the galaxies. Are those even galaxies?
No, they're in most cases they're.
the camera's live, so
Oh, sorry, I'm blocking your view.
it's a good naval close-up.
They're constellations. Yeah, the ecliptic runs through there.
Which one?
The ecliptic.
What is it?
You can think of it kind of like the equator of the celestial sphere.
Okay.
So, you know, the zodiac, those are all constellations that lie roughly along that equator.
Okay.
So most of the big ones you've heard of are along there. Also, all the planets and the stars move along that line.
Oh, Kepler talked a lot about this.
Probably a lot of people did. You know, since we're 34 degrees north, then it's a path running across the southern sky, roughly 34 degrees.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So if you're at the equator, the ecliptic runs in a circle around you, right on the horizon. And if you're at the North Pole, it crosses straight overhead.
Hey, can you stand over there for a minute?
Am I testing?
Yeah, here, check it out. Ollie, here's the
Okay.
screen. Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
So
You
don't
go back and hook up a hamburger.
Yeah, so
I'll be using Eric as a model.
see what it is. And look, you can see it's legible, so it won't shut those lights on.
Because that's what they do when you take their order.
This one's for you.
Once the money.
Hey,
Don't make a scrambled egg or a hamburger or whatever they've asked for.
We're only saying good stuff.
And that's what happened. This company was doing good work.
I mean, I go and I'll chop it all out. I chop out the crap, pull it down and repost.
Rock hard is rock solid, anything I can bang on. But you're second to market, and I've already got something that does that. They didn't give me the opportunity to give them the order because they were still off in the lab making it. Whereas the people that sold it from the lab got the order. And then they kept following that. They told us, they just been on a couple of and people would accept that. People really do accept that because their land is already over there. It's not, the products it might be over there. They're told it's over there. But it's a lot of effort to get that money back in my hands. So I will let it stop. It's like, no, you don't, you can't run this with a pre-order. Because then they'll cancel. Because there's cancellation clauses in there and people are smart enough to take advantage of cancellation clauses. You get them to fork over the money. Then they're tied in.
Ideally, they want the person to hire the
Oh, yeah. Oracle was famous for it. They promised that Oracle on the PC, Oracle on the Digital Printing Corporation, Mini Computer, and Oracle on the IBM mainframe all had the same capabilities. Okay? Number one, that's 3 levels of power. Do anything. It takes a lot of computation power to run a database. There was no way at that time, when the PC first came out and first promised that they would have Oracle running. That they could even think of it because the power wasn't there. They couldn't possibly sort the size tables that would be necessary to do some of the work that was being done. Let alone the mainframe. But they sold that to the company that wanted to be on the type of database that their upstream customers they sort of good. Okay. They got as much functionality in it as they could. And they could feed the bigger machines. And they could draw subsets of data over bigger machines. machines and play with them on the PC.
Got a whole bunch of
Memory space all over. Hard drive are the real liquid. To do some of the problems that the moment.
We had a wonderful.
You gotta be a real small company to be happy with 1,000 lines of code. You know, that's a real small company. Now, if you're gonna talk about hundreds of thousands of customers, you're gonna need a mainframe company, because this kind you can get it and it's set up to do on disk space, so you can do in the main memory.
Take that over and give us, that's over.
We've got massive problems. I was talking about the unit price. All three of those things. Yeah, the biggest machine I didn't need at that time was a 16 meg.
Generally gonna do a more efficient job.
That was the biggest machine. And then they came out with the cache processor. And one processor was the lead, and the second one you could throw something over the wall for it to do. One was as a totally independent place on the first processor. So it's not massive, it's not multi-processor, because the first one was
Locking or synchronization.
no, it's just divvying up the jobs that need to be done. This is the area where people bring a deck of cards, put it in the card reader, and expect a printout out the other side. So that was a self-contained problem. So in order to get more of those cards flowing into that, more of those printouts coming out over here, if you put a second process out there, instead of doing all the processing this one, you should the job out of this one and then toss the result back. Yeah, that's why they always attach the processor, because they knew it wasn't multi-processing. Now, I'd be able to have multi-processor.
I finally got a new doctor.
All right.
Why did you decide to put slash box on there? People never talk about that stuff. I did something funny. You know what they're gonna say?
There was a company called System 88.
Highest degree, highest process, architecture, highest law.
We have System 88 made it. 1988. You could go to System 88 and get a quote. Go to IBM and get a quote. The only difference between the two machines is IBM and System 88 label.
Yes. Nobody ever got fired for buying an IBM.
That's right.
Fighting for the price differential.
Exactly.
What did you think of really? You don't need to regulate what you did. And top of that. So, I mean, people need an outlet. This is the perfect outlet.
Just for those.
Yeah, he's pretty bright guy.
I think it's
Just because they go out.
So many fun facts about me.
That's what happened. That's what it's a gate.
Bitcoin so far seems to have become the most popular right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Was it time?
Let's see what happens.
The industry was like, here's the total value of the guy.
That's exciting.
All right.
I want to ask you something. That was so cool. Is that Andre? Oh, that's you.
Okay.
They could do right now. Is it
Curve
the
goes up 5%.
Cuban
Goes up 1%.
I don't know.
You went up 5%.
1%
This is
if that side of the world, let's say, is competing with the United States interests and European interests, is getting into it, it's going to succeed in certain ways.
It goes into the attack on the transatlantic.
We were sitting there talking one day.
Elon. From what I read in the blue, it sounds like it's been in the game for a few years.
Within 30 years of,
I think there's a market for maybe 20 years.
I've known about this now for 3 years. Actually, now that I wanted to catch up with it, because I knew that the previous leaders applications and they use them. And once I put $5 in died. And what happened was that currency got the very much bang to charge it with. I didn't want to deal with it.
All right, hey, we're gonna get started now. Everybody,
The way regulations work,
grab a seat, and more importantly, shut up.
Good job.
Okay, welcome to the August 2014 Unix User Association of Southern California, Los Angeles chapter meetup. Thanks everybody for coming. Ali Razeghi will be talking to us about cryptocurrency mining for fun and profit in a few minutes. Just wanted to take care of some meetup business, and then we'll press on. So yes, welcome once again to the Unix User Association of Southern California. We have two chapters, an LA chapter and an OC chapter. The LA chapter meets here, meets in LA, usually here at Q, once a month, on the first Thursday of the month. I'm always looking for presenters, so let me know if you want to present. To be a member of UUASC, we don't have any dues or anything like that, but we would like for you to join our mailing list. How many of you are not a member of our mailing list? You are not a member. Not a member. So, it is. So to become a member of the mailing list, you go to uuasc.org and join the general mailing list. That's what I'm talking about. So if you're on that, great. You're a member. It's official. All right, come on in, have a seat. We're just getting started. So we have two other mailing lists. So we have three mailing lists. The one is the general mailing list. You go to uuac.org and click on the mailing list stuff. There'll be stuff, information on how to subscribe to that. The next mailing list is the announce mailing list. That's a limited traffic, just announcements. Hey, next presentation is this, or our server crashed, or something really important. And then the third list is UAC jobs. That's for Unix or Linux related jobs in the Southern California area. It is a moderated list, but you don't need to be a member to post to it. So if you want to post that you're available, you're on the market, or if you have a position or somebody else is aware of a position, it's a good place to send the information over, and the moderator will take a quick look. As long as it's a Unix or Linux related gig in Southern California area, they'll pass it on to the few hundred of our members that are on that list. So that's our mailing list spiel. I mentioned we meet first Thursday of the month in LA, and you're welcome to speak there. Also, I noticed somebody mentioned they came up from OC. We used to have regular meetings there, the first in Irvine, the first or the second Monday of the month. If you wanted to speak or know somebody else wants to speak down there, I'm sure we could try and jumpstart those meetups down there. And of course, I'm always looking for speakers. So you can email, I'm on the UUAC general mailing list. You'll see me posting there frequently. Or you can email leaders@uuasc.org with a little bit about what you'd like to say. Okay, I think that's it for all the UUAC business. Of course, we would like to thank our host, Carolyn, at Q for providing this awesome facility and the snacks for come up and just tell us a little bit about Q, and then I'll be back and we'll bring up Ollie and start the show.
I'm Carolyn, for anyone that hasn't met me yet. I know most of you already, of course. So anyone that is not familiar with Q, we are a recruiting firm here in LA. We do focus just on the LA market, so we always have a good read on the market if you're ever looking, to just know what's going on in the market, just curious or whatever. If you ever have any needs at all for recruiting service, whether you're looking to hire, you're looking just for resume help, whatever it is, feel free to let us know. We're always happy to help out however we can. Also want to take a second to promote my meetup group, Linux LA. You just go to meetup.com/Linux LA. We do a lot of joint meetups because we're, very similar topics, but, slightly different takes on it. So, if you're interested, please feel free. And then, I think that's it. Please recycle. This is the recycle. Recyclable, recycle. Spare and neuter your cats. Think you'll have a nice graphic. And one of my rescue friends just posted on Facebook about how one cat with a litter can turn into like 50 cats in a year and a half. They would love to see it. So, anyway, please recycle. Thank you for coming and enjoy the presentation and learn how to mine Bitcoins and things like coins.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you. One other thing. After the meetup, in general, I assume Ollie, we're usually a pretty active crowd here. I think feel free to ask questions during the meetup. It's more of an open discussion. But half the folks around here, I don't have to tell them that. I'm surprised they haven't heckled me already. But the other thing is, after the meetup, we're going to go across the street to whatever it is, grill, and have some food and drink. So you're welcome to join us for that. Oh, also, this is being streamed via Google Hangouts on Air, which shows up on YouTube. So if you want to watch it again, and also Ollie did share the slides with me, so we'll get those posted up quick. So now for the main event, which you've all been waiting for, UUAC. We did host in town in 2000. I think it was August of 2011. It was a while ago. We had I think the talk was titled Digital Money. We had 3 presenters talking about Bitcoin. I think 2 were miners, and one was basically just a user/evangelist. We had a lot of discussion with some of the same people in the room about Bitcoin. At that time, Bitcoin mining was being done with GPUs. And we kind of talked about it, ran the numbers, and it's like, wow, those NVIDIA cards are pretty expensive. And I don't know. Of course, hindsight being 2020, and I just taken the money that I could have spent on a rig there and just bought a bunch of Bitcoin at $30. I'd be killing it. And things have moved on, and here we have Ollie Razeghi to talk to us about the current state of crypto mining and to bring us all up to speed on cryptocurrencies and the interesting technologies behind it. Take it away, Ollie.
Thank you. Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. All right. We're going to do a quick introduction. Let me come up here for the chats.
Yeah.
So the topic is for fun and profit and loss. It's fun if you're like us and you love to work with technology, optimize it, get the last bit out, figure out new things, be in the Wild West, try to do stuff faster than your competitors can, and then realize, God dang, nice hash really brings stuff out fast. So you really got to also bring things out really freaking fast. So we're going to go through some of that. We're going to go through lessons learned about mining at scale and just mining in general, if you wish to do that. And also talk about the latest things that have been happening in the past few months on the technology layer of Bitcoin. Different stratums, different miners, different sites, and how that's changing the market and where we're going. So pardon me as I keep walking in front of this.
Just one quick question.
Please, questions.
Do you want questions at the same time, or do
Ask
you want
me
questions
anytime.
after?
Right now is fine.
Okay, I do it right now. It's okay. True quick. I heard something wrong with it last week. So they tell like don't use it. If you ask, I would assume the impression before it is going bad. I would say it is good. I would use True quick for just for anything. I would be okay. But now they tell me don't use it. Now, I would assume that Bitcoin have the same kind of security level, and so you don't know. I could be one day I could say, oh, well, someone can say it's security bad. So I mean, have you heard about True?
I got the new vulnerability that was just released.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, could the same thing happen to Bitcoin?
That is one of the issues when you're dealing with cutting edge technology. Anything like this could happen. Now that the fact that the code is open source largely, and you can look at it and so forth and review what's happening, if it does, I feel like the community would jump and resolve it pretty quickly. That's my impression of the matter. But I'm not sure. Yes, there are definitely vulnerabilities within cutting edge technology, though, in my opinion. But yeah, fair question. I'll just jump in real quick about me. My name's Razeghi. That's my email if you need to reach me or ask my phone number. I founded ABM Tech LLC with my business partner back at the end of 2012 because we really needed to have the protection of a company. I'm also the lead database engineer at Edgecast Verizon Digital. We love experienced developers, programmers, administrators, so please do reach out to us. We have positions open in every department. I need big data engineers, I need administrators, we need HTTP engine developers, protocol developers. I personally need protocol developers for some Bitcoin stuff I'm thinking of. So do keep that in mind. We love experienced IT engineers.
And there's tons of Linux. Tons of open source software.
Over 10,000 Linux servers, and I don't know how many lines of code we have in open source software for Linux.
And kernel engineers and kernel modifications.
Absolutely. Now, I've also been politically active for new financial architecture since the year 2000 when the Bush and Gore election was going on. And it was just very clear there's something wrong in the political system that we're not getting the whole story. It's been a crazy fight, so I'm slightly even more passionate about digital currency and such as a way of possibly helping out these folks. I have been working for Glass-Steagall reintroduction since 2007.
Wow.
So that's been something that's gained a lot of progress, not directly tied to this. If you have questions, you can ask me about that later. And I'm in the middle of writing a little web series called Getting to Know Your Friendly Financial Empire. So that was actually pretty fun, and it ties into Bitcoin. And there's a good chapter, how to shut a wall. Red Sea 10-pack, they were $3,000 each 10-pack. Today, 3 or 4 months later, you can get the same 10-pack for $100. There is no way you're going to make money buying these at retail. There's just no way that's not going to happen. There's a company by the name of Zoomhash that started in January and made hand over fist money right away. We looked into it to see what's going on, even talked to the guy who started it, and we realized he's the guy who on the forums was doing group buys for years and talking to distributors and building contacts. Those are the type of people you want to talk to if you want to go into ASIC mining. ASIC is helpful because it uses so little power, you could actually run a lot of it at home, which GPU, you're not going to be able to really do that. What they do, the working model, if you're going into ASICs, you buy it straight from them at lower than distributor prices. You farm them for a week or as long as it takes you to sell them, and you sell it immediately right afterwards. And you just keep doing that. You get new material, mine, and sell. And that's it. And you sell at a massive markup. The reason you sell immediately and not farm for a week is because how fast this price drops when the new ASICs come out now is actually you don't make that much farming. So you should get rid of them as fast as you can. Get involved in the community. You'd be surprised. When we went to see the gentleman who was doing Zoomhash, he was actually in the middle of, I don't know what, he wasn't sleeping for 3 days. And he said, look, just tell me how much you want for them. You know, and that's because you go there and we talk to the guy. You don't get that from there. This is largely, as of right now, if you're going to do ASICs on the current difficulty rate, you really should be paying less than 5.3 cents a power. So if you know some per kilowatt hour, and we're in the middle of summer, and LA is tiered unlike some other parts of the country, and you pay more for summer costs. So if you know somebody who has an office that they don't pay for electricity, maybe they'll 10 of them, I'm just saying, that's one way to get it less than 5.3 cents a kilowatt hour, but that's critical. Don't let power eat up all of your profits, because that is what ends up happening.
Sorry.
Please.
Where did that number come from?
I have to pull up the algorithms. Basically,
Are you saying it's not profitable if it's 5.4? Or the whole equation wouldn't work out at scale?
So essentially, from what, sorry guys. So these aren't absolute numbers. This is coming from Coin Wars and one of the other charting sites that I forgot which one it is. I'll shoot you the email if you contact me with it because they have good, that show you basically how much profitability you're getting mining that coin currently. It gives you an analysis of what that coin will in the near future if the goes up. So these pools that you join are multi-pools, which we'll get into, they sell immediately or they buy it from you immediately. So based on those numbers and how much you will generate with your hashing power and factoring in the power cost, that goes in. But that doesn't factor in the power, the cost of buying the hardware, the cost of maintaining it, the auxiliary costs you wouldn't think of, like the glue on your riser melting. Weird things like that aren't factored in. So do give yourself a nice buffer. Good question. Yeah.
You're shocking me with the area you started talking about, power and computing, okay? And it's shocking me. Does that mean that some people out there dealing with Bitcoins and ASICs are actually trying their own schemes of generating power, like solar or gas or whatever else? Are they actually trying this kind of stuff?
I've tried all.
So you've tried, wow.
Let me tell you something.
You've tried this stuff?
I have. So let me tell you some of the stuff that I've picked up.
Oh,
if you guys are interested. I mean,
sure.
Yeah, okay. So essentially, you're going to want to be somewhere really cold, and you're not going to really be able to rely on alternative power in this case. Gas was really easy. The gas was cheaper than power in a lot of places, except Washington, Buffalo, New York, in the U.S. The machines that you buy to generate gas into the proper currents were relatively expensive, but not too much. However, you can only run them a few hours a day. They can only be outside. Fire hazard, your insurance cost goes up quite a bit. And the fact that you can only run 12 hours at a time really increased the cost. So gas wasn't possible.
No.
And then solar.
Solar. That's more. Yeah.
I was really disappointed with what I found in solar.
Yeah.
It seems to be a negative energy solution still. One of the problems with solar are big lithium batteries, which do last several years, although they do degrade near the end of their life quite a bit. They are very expensive. Solar panels themselves are highly unreliable, as we all know, whether it gets cloudy, it's nighttime half the time, and just the cost of maintenance on the panels for something as intense as this wasn't worth it. In some cases, I would see solar very helpful for auxiliary power for services at home. It seemed to be good for that. But for something of this layer, you know, I was trying to compare the power a freaking hamster would generate and how many freaking hamsters you need to try to generate power and how much of the United States that would take up versus how much of the United States would take up trying to do solar, assuming the conditions were in the Southwest where it's a lot of intense direct sunlight. I'll have to pull those up, but it was actually pretty ridiculous. So solar was a no-go either for us. Norway, not Norway, Iceland has it done right. They have a lot of geothermal power, and it's all underground right there. It's a small, highly concentrated area, and you can just use that all day. So those were some of the things we found about power. If you guys want to interrupt me about anything, feel free to. You're welcome. I'm here for you guys. GPUs, here's some of the things we found out. The new Maxwell NVIDIA GPUs are really good. I know NVIDIA had a really bad name because of their bad S-script performance, because of their architecture. However, they finally got with the game, and if it provides 450 mega hashes, the NVIDIA will take up 30% less power. It does overclock better too, which is really nice. The R9 270, if you're going to go stick with Radeon, which later on we'll see you don't have to as much anymore, really had the worst power consumption out of all of them. R9 290X is still the king as far as power goes. It's still expensive. It's still $450 for 950 mega hashes for card. But if you factor in the power usage over time and you keep it for a while, it still makes the most sense. You're not getting performance jumps anymore as of right now. I think part of the reason is the amount of onboard memory on the video card will really need to increase. We can get into that in a bit if you guys have questions on that. But at the moment, we're getting massive jumps in efficiency. And it's not even so much not on the hardware, it's on the software. The drivers are getting more efficient, which means some of you guys, not me, you guys with a lot of experience here who've done this stuff, can actually jump in on some of the software parts of cryptocurrency and make something more efficient. Again, we'll get into this shortly, instead of just mining, correct? You can provide a better product than what's out there. Be aware with the video cards. We sampled about 10 cards in our lab environment before I bought 200 of a certain kind. God damn it, the power results were so inconsistent. 1.7 volts, 1.5 volts, 1.6. This one would work on 1.5, but this one wouldn't work on 1.7. Give yourself some good leeway, because for some reason, same manufacturer, same BIOS, same lot number, totally different power results.
And that's because the specs gives you a range typically. If you look at the spec of the components,
Mm-hmm.
it has to do with heat, it has to do with a lot of issues. How
That's true.
clean the power is until you come in.
Absolutely.
You're not going to see 100% consistency.
No, but I was surprised to see it jump from 1.4, 5, 6, and 7. I was a little bit surprised at the range. So
when you're talking about GPU, you're not talking about Bitcoin anymore, right?
GPU no longer is for Bitcoin. In fact, mining Bitcoin directly is still highly unprofitable. Highly unprofitable. It is just so, cost of entry is so high that most people do multi-pools if they don't want to do anything, which we'll get into. If you are going to do this, please don't buy these USB risers you get for 50 cents. Not these regular ones. Get the USB risers that are built well. This is your weak point right here. The risers will cost you so many hours of aggravation, but the USB ones auto-sync immediately. We'll jump into power real quick. Actually, I have some pictures about that. We'll deal with that next. Also, another good thing with the USB risers is it auto-terminates, so you don't have to manually fidget and terminate your riser yourself. Plus, it'll drop it to 1x bus, which we'll get into in a bit. which will help you run more cards on your system dependent on your motherboard's PCI bus layout. So yeah, basically the 2 power supplies, we'll talk about that. Next is staggering your cards. So these are some of the best practices we learned about running a graphics processing center. We rented a warehouse, brought in tons of power, and turned it into the most ghetto fabulous processing center we've seen. If you're processing just math formulas, you don't need SAS 70 requirements. Forget all of them. Throw them all out there except 1 or 2. Why? Right? You're not handling customer data. You're not handling sensitive information. You're not providing a critical resource. So where you should go ghetto, but spend money where you have to. For example, we don't even use milk crates. Milk crates are way too expensive, and they block airflow pretty badly. We get these, at first we bought the $5 little cubes from Target, but then from Home Depot, buying these little frames was even cheaper. Plus, it helped us be able to duct immediately from the back and then also from the bottom. And that way we were able to hit the air from both ways and force the airflow up. By staggering the cards like we did here, we seriously got over 25% improvement in hashing power just because of the airflow. Just by doing this, 3 here, 2 here.
Now, what's the scale of that picture there? How big is that crate? How tall is that?
Oh, that's a good question. So that one, so basically your R9 270s are about this tall.
Okay.
So that's it. Actually, this is in Michigan where we put everything. And I actually haven't gone to Michigan to actually see this in person. I've seen the videos and everything. So 16 inch. So there you go. But give it like 1.5 space. We didn't want to go too far. But one of the issues you have with this type of stuff is mounting the power supply units. They're kind of bulky. They get in the way. So it's not too bad, and it stacks up better than milk crates stack up.
So how many have you got of it?
Of this, in these cards, I have 200 of these cards currently, like this, and then I have 2 stacks of ASICs.
So you're mining Litecoin, I was doing, right?
We are actually going to go into, we're doing multi-pool, multi-algorithm. So we're mining everything and then selling them at various points for Bitcoin, and then hanging on to the Bitcoin until power is due. They're like, oh shit, your power, to pull out Bitcoins, and then you pay the power bill.
So, but you're going to get into the whole mining stuff. And okay, cool.
What you going to do?
Keep going?
It's shocking me.
Oh, really?
Well, how come you guys didn't use other solutions like supercomputing?
Oh, supercomputing, vertical scales definitely wouldn't have worked. We did look into becoming a legitimate GPU processing plant and not just using that because we're dealing with Bitcoins and the banks don't like that. But actually writing GPU processing software so that people can offload their game data or their analytic data onto these GPUs if that's more profitable. The supercomputing comes a lot more handy in that type of work because for the current algorithms, they were written for video cards, which means the algorithms were good enough to fit in 2 to 4 gigs of memory of the video cards. And then from there, the communication on board of the RAM of the video card is what makes it so fast. If they did it the old algorithms, it would have to go to RAM memory on the motherboard itself, and then it would have to traverse the bus, go to RAM, pull it out, and that doesn't work. The supercomputing Titan cards, for example, are really, really good for the type of research work that other companies use GPU processing for, because those are multi-parallelized, multi-operations. Give me every single operation possible, kind of like they do with Hadoop. I see a Rain the Cloud Era shirt, right? Throw all of it into one big process and spit it out. That's what those are more optimized for, we learned. So that was a good question.
So you never wanted to port the software so you can run it in other platforms?
I don't have the resources to do that or the expertise, but that's a possibility. These are the types of things I'd like us to think about in the future slides coming up too. So keep those gears grinding.
Why Michigan?
Good question. Because my business partner, who's a very good hardware guy, lives there, it's cheap power. We're right next to the power plant. It's hydroelectric. Rent is really cheap. And in non-summer months, my cooling is open the window. And seriously, like that's the cooling. You just open the window. If I were to do it again, I would move it to Washington State.
There's no snow in Washington State.
That's a good point, but power is 3 cents a kilowatt hour. So, I like that. Another thing to look at, by the way, if there's pieces that you guys think is boring or other stuff, let me know. We got other stuff we can go through. Motherboard bus saturation, trying to get video cards working, is going to be your biggest enemy, or one of the biggest enemies. What we learned is, or what I learned, my business partner already knew, is that these motherboards share the bus between the PCI slots, and sometimes they're pretty greedy about it. So you want a gaming card that says, oh yeah, we'll absolutely guarantee like 3 video cards at once because they have more buses and more bus lanes. We briefly talked about it. I'll just go over it really quick then. Terminate them. We learned that if you just use a 1X riser and you properly terminate it like the USB ones does, the bus actually disables all the other bandwidth, and therefore every other card you get has bandwidth to work with. If you use a full 16X riser, it'll reserve all that bandwidth, and your cards won't work, and you won't be able to put 5, 6, or 7 cards on one machine. That was something interesting, and it took a lot of testing. Again, go get it or go home. This is what it looks like from the top. Cheap, efficient, fast, reliable. But you make it manageable. I mean, it should be nice and easy to work with. Another thing I learned, don't spend $400 on one power supply unit. Spend $200, get 2, and then do that. Because that will then jump the power supply so that when you turn on the main switch, the power supply will auto start. This way, you can directly plug in 4 cards or whatever you like into the second power supply and power everything else with the first power supply. If you're building 40, 50, 60 systems, that $200 each really starts to add up. Plus, it's a bit more reliable. When you have one power supply and it's the wrong one and it goes down, you're kind of stuck with that whole system being down. Oddly enough, if you have 2 and it goes down, you just hard reboot it while you replace it. It's nice and fast and easy. But again, a good solution, a good place to go cheap when you don't have to. Always, always have your kilowatts handy. Always measure that. These things sometimes change. We won't go too much into power. We went into it already. PDUs, network routable, are very important. I wouldn't do this without PDUs. They really help you save money by helping you automate reboots when you need to, not having to drive to the facility, doing everything remotely. They're controllable from your smartphone, but dang, they're expensive if you buy them brand new. Don't buy this stuff brand new. PDUs you can just buy from Liquidators, Craigslist, eBay. We got them fast. We got them 30% of cost brand new. And not one of my PDUs has broken, whereas a lot of other stuff has. Power distribution units also help us distribute the power, obviously, because that's the name, a lot better between systems and rigs, which is, again, very helpful. This is our redundancy for our internet. We have one internet, we had 2, we're paying $100 each, and we realized, dude, you could buy a jetpack, pay $50, and when it uses the data, you just fill it up again. So we cancel the second internet line. We have one internet line. If that fails, it goes up to this for the number of hours it's down, and then the Linux load balancer goes right back into the main one when it detects it can send traffic to it again. So this is the beauty of not having SAS 70 requirements, right? You don't need any of this critical hardware. It's nice and straightforward. If you are going to be mining a lot and you want it for business, here's what else you're going to need. You're going to need business hours staff for sure. There's a lot of work to do. You have to do a lot of testing, every configuration, write it down. You're going to spend a lot of time RMAing. I have about 5K worth of equipment that I haven't had time to RMA yet. Yeah, and it's just sitting there, you know, and you just don't have time. You need a lot of help with this stuff. You don't think you're going to need a lot of coding and scripting once you get it off, but boy, are we wrong. We're all gearheads here, and we want to automate and make things faster, more efficient, and figure out something new. It almost consumes you, so be careful of that if you're that type of personality. A lot of monitoring and alerting. Coin administrators and traders. Coin administrators are people that follow the hype on the forums and know who is releasing what their ties are to the community, and how they're hyping it up. And also the traders will help you trade your coins for maximum results. You actually need one or two of these people. Finally, for cooling, swamp cooling plus dehumidifiers with proper ducting was actually a lot cheaper than just regular cooling. You would think having to deal with dehumidifiers would be a bad thing. It hasn't caused us any issues yet. Maybe because of the last point, maybe we've been lucky. But thus far, it's been a great cooling solution.
Where are you dealing with multiple digital currencies based on the performance you get based on that hardware of each one based on what's currently trading at? Can there be any one that's smart to be working on at any given moment?
Absolutely, that's in the presentation. Good question.
Jumping ahead.
No, I like this.
So one of the, can you talk a little bit about the coin administrator role?
Sure.
So are they looking at software releases, or are they looking at new cryptocurrencies, or all that kind of stuff?
A very good coin administrator would be looking at both, but the coin administrator role really needs the new coins coming out, and that takes a lot of time to stay on top of. It's actually quite busy. There's a lot of gossip and chat you have to listen to. So it's more for that. But we are actually very quickly going to get into the new software coming out, and perhaps where we could further optimize it. And then here it is, optimization and cryptocurrency layers, right? Here are some areas that optimizations are currently going on. The miner application. The miner application is the guy that actually does the work for you. There's a lot of optimizations done on that. Video card driver, I don't have any major updates for us outside of the Maxwell cards. The Stratum protocol replaces the RESTful states, get, push, and so forth methods that you could have with a more reliable protocol for streaming in data like this. And there's a lot of optimizations that could be done to it that we were working on, and then NiceHash released it. Dang it. So, get it out fast. And then finally, another optimization layer is picking which pool you actually want to mine from. So, number one, miner, BAMT. BAMT is dead. BAMT used to be the miner that you would buy, which was, you would download, put it on your flash drive, put it in your machine, and pray to God it worked, and it had drivers for everything, and it came up. Wasn't a good solution for us. We made our own Ubuntu distro. BAMT was based on Debian, but it was very old, and it just didn't have a lot of support. Minor tweaks got us a lot of updates. I don't recall what my business partner changed, but we went from 440 kilohashes per second to 490 by just loading the latest version of Ubuntu. That's 12, and that was 12.04 LTS from BAMT. We got 50 megahash per card just by going to a legitimate Ubuntu instance.
What do you attribute the performance?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure. I want to ask Romar that. I think.
I'll tell you.
What is it?
Ubuntu, during those versions, they went and they really had the performance training. It was shocking to others to see it. How they did it, they have to ask their Ubuntu people. But they got things running fast, and they come up fast, and it's really fast. How? A good question. But those specific versions you're talking about, that we started with about 10, 11, they really hyped up their
We felt it.
They want to do a lot of optimization, I'm pretty sure, that they never did before.
Yeah, we felt that. I don't know what kind of performance we got at Verizon Edgecast when we upped our edge nodes to the later versions. Maybe you do know, but I know on the mining side, we gained considerable benefits just by doing that.
In fact, at that time, I was using Puppy Linux, which runs out of RAM directly. That all it does is out of RAM. It's HTML, So Puppy runs like a bat out of hell. But also Ubuntu cut out. It did just as good stuff running off disk. So they figured out some really advanced ways of doing things.
Ali should probably summarize his statement in case people couldn't hear that. That it was basically Ubuntu modifications in the later releases.
Oh, again, we're not sure what modifications were made inside Ubuntu that gave such performance benefits, but it did. That's all I know about it, unfortunately. I will ask my friend Romar, though, my business partner. He's a major gearhead, and he might have some ideas. So let me see. Maybe we can get something out of him.
Back then, people were asking, well, what's Ubuntu doing? Nobody has an answer.
Yeah.
Nobody had an answer.
Yet the code is open source, so you can just
Oh,
read
there
the
we go.
source code. You guys are lazy.
Exactly right.
Lazy, greedy, cryptocurrency.
Release their mods back to.
Oh, by the way, what is the most, as far as you know, the most popular Linux distribution? I assume Linux is probably more popular, used in cryptocurrency mining.
Oh, that's a good question. You know, in my opinion, so far, I don't have the numbers to back it up, just what I've been reading on the forums and seeing with questions, hemp is starting to take over quite a bit. We're going to get into what hemp is,
Cool.
but outside of that, I think Ubuntu really is the go-to distro, especially since Bamboo was already built on the Debian engine anyways. Mm-hmm. So maybe that had something to do with them going to that. I'm not sure why, but we did test multiple versions, and for us, Ubuntu gave the best results. That also had FAT32. We all know how annoying that is to deal with and how ancient it is. To give an example of how old the underlying Babs OS was. There weren't any pool controls. There were no more updates for it. They stopped supporting it, and so forth. All right, so just a real quick one. We'll just throw it in there. It's called Awesome Miner. It's not so awesome because it's Windows only. Windows licensing is a pain. If you're going to do this legit, you need to get licensed. You know, Windows really on this stuff is actually quite a pain to manage. Linux is way better to manage, in my opinion, for this stuff. But you do get 7 GPUs in Windows easily, which you don't get in Linux easily. So if you have one system and you have 7 video cards, you might want to look into Windows. And also look into Awesome Miner. Otherwise, we should really just look into NiceHash, which is a hashing company. Let me just see. Well, there's one question you asked. You asked me a question right now, and I didn't see it addressed in the slide. Can you repeat the question?
I asked you about the most popular distribution.
Distro. That's right. I must.
And actually, and then also, and I also said I was assuming it was Linux, but I guess there is some. And it wasn't the initial Bitcoin mining, the like Satoshi proof of concept. That wasn't that written in Windows first and then ported to Linux?
I believe so, but that's actually before my time. I read a hard OCP article about Bitcoin, and that was all I knew about the time. You know. All right. Okay. So if the slide isn't there, I'll get to that, and if it is, we'll just get to it when we get to that slide. So right now we've been talking about miners. What a miner is, as we discussed, is something that lives on your computer that uses your GPU to mine the coin you've selected. Now we're talking about NiceHash, which is a broker service. It's not even a pool anymore. What these guys do, it's actually what we wanted to do in January, and this they released before we did too. God dang it. Our pool broker software, which was in development, essentially did the same thing, but they do it a lot nicer. I do have to give them credit for that. You are somebody who wants to mine, and you're going to buy mining power. Well, go to NiceHash, and if you have GPUs, you put it up there, and somebody will pay you a bit more than what's profitable to use your GPU power so that they can mine using your hardware. In a sense, you're leasing out your hardware. My first thought was, why would you pay me more than what's profitable from all these great multi-pools that I can connect to? Well, it turns out, of course, this is a gambling type situation, and these people are gambling. They might have inside knowledge. There might be a coin release. Maybe their auto trading and auto coin selection program is saying this coin is going to go up, and therefore mine as much of it as you can right now. So those people really drive this model, and it's been very profitable. They support multiple tools, multiple algorithms. They have this really cool Stratum code that they made some changes to, which maybe we could make even better. They pay you 4 times a day It's the mining broker we talked about. It's everything I wanted to do. And reading their posts on the forums and so forth, there seems to be like 6 distinct personalities and styles. So it seems to be like a code of 6 people. So maybe if we could find 7 good developers here, maybe we could compete with them. Let's see.
That's the grand one.
Think of how good you would be if you had 12 people.
Exactly, right?
You know, you have more conversations, you have less
efficiency.
productive time, and you have wasted management. When I'm producing code, you don't want to talk to each
And then they say, you know, just alone. Well, it's about money. Let's see. Seems to be 6 people. All right. So this is just a real quick thing of how their mining broker works. Yeah, well, these mining groups, it goes through their proxies, and then essentially this goes to the customer. And from there, what their Stratum protocol does that the previous versions didn't, which is one reason why it's so much better, is, are you all familiar with pools? What a pool is basically a wallet that you can mine to, that everybody can mine to. And if one person makes a discovery and gets awarded in that pool, that amount is distributed among the work done of the people there, right? So you join pools and so forth to basically mine more efficiently and get more likely to get something than get nothing. The problem was when you would set up your miner applications, you would put in the Stratum, and let's just say that particular Stratum that you're heading went dead. It got DDoS, it got hacked, for whatever reason the site went down. Now you're not mining anything. You're just waiting until your configuration says, okay, now fail over to this other one. You now fail over to this other pool. All of the work you did, I think in this scenario, does actually get paid, sorry. But when you fail over to the other pool, you got to start over and so forth. And there's a big delay in between. What these guys did is they changed the Stratum protocol that was public. They made their own private version that immediately switches you right then and there on the spot. So there isn't any waiting. And it just reboots the systems in the background for you, and you're good to go. That was a big enhancement in the Stratum. Plus, they seem to make it a bit faster. This is public information and public code, not their version, but the main one. There's still room for improvement. If we can make this communication faster and you build this better, you will get paid. Now, maybe you'll get paid in percentages of Bitcoin. Maybe a bigger company will come and buy it from you. But that is somewhere that people with our experience and your experience can benefit from, is by developing that piece or making that piece better. They also have a cool auto-switching algorithm, right? Our first algorithm was, was SHA-256 for all the Bitcoin variants, then S-script, which was the Litecoin variant, Dogecoin, and so forth. Then you have S-script N, which does twice as much mega hashes, uses a bit less power, but there's other issues. And now we have all these newer ones, which are parts of the SHA-3 algorithm, which are pretty good against turning into an ASIC. But we're still probably a year or two away, maybe a year, from ASICs of these guys coming out. Therefore, the community is moving towards this. Just really quick, what happened was Bitcoin got into hyper-specialized ASICs market. The community didn't like that. Litecoin, Feathercoin came out, known as altcoins. They were the S-script variant. The S-script was good because it was very resistant against getting ASICs. Now that ASICs came out, X11, X13, and these other algorithms are now the ones that are very friendly and popular, and coins are moving over into those. So one of the cool things that NiceHash can do for you is it sees, oh, X13 is profitable, there's a lot of orders for that, and it's more expensive. Auto shift them over to X13 for you. This wasn't possible in the past. So algorithm switching is another cool concept that if anybody's interested more, I'll be happy to provide you background info on how we can get more info on that for you to develop against. Let's see, areas to improve. The most profitable areas are auto trading. This isn't a finance thing, but if you want to code and you can write auto trading algorithms for websites and exchanges that don't have APIs, you can gain the market if you do that. If you want to gain the market, find an exchange, relatively new but safe. If it's not too safe, pull your money out fast frequencies, right? And write your own APIs to them. That way, you'll get your buy and sell orders in fast, and you can make some good money that way. That was helpful, actually. Also, predictive analysis is very good. Optimizations inside the stratum. The individual miner, Soft Hash, Nice Hash made their own miner that does a lot of these optimizations for you. Changing algorithms, auto trading pools. GPU drivers for Linux, I don't know how many driver developers we have, but if you make a mining optimized driver, there will be a lot of money in that area too. I blabbed on for a while. Are there any questions?
What does it, I've written drivers before. What does it mean to be mining optimized driver? I mean, I mean, I/O drivers, there are memory-based drivers.
These are video card drivers in particular that we're talking about, NVIDIA and Radeon, or basically ATI. And essentially, when the new cards come out, at first, the video card drivers, for whatever reason, aren't that optimized. We know this because it's not what we're doing, right? Pushing it to the limit. Exactly. As time goes on, the drivers get better and better until you have substantial gains. As new ones come out, that is definitely an area to look at for the type of processing that cryptocurrency does. That's another good area for profit.
You mean profit meaning somebody will hire you to do that? Or?
I wouldn't get hired by somebody to do that. I would highly recommend writing it and then just selling it to them, or making some kind of a service, or charging people a percentage, maybe if you have the leeway. But yeah, absolutely, I would. There's always good money in that because new cards are always coming out. So that's something that's always changing. Any other questions? What was the most boring part? Yeah. Anybody? Okay, well, if you guys have any feedback, go ahead.
Maybe you could talk, and I've kind of been monitoring the stream, but maybe talk a little bit more about the blockchain itself and the technical aspects of that, and in particular other uses for the blockchain for those people that aren't so
That's a good
money
point.
grubbing.
Right. You mentioned a very good point earlier inside the Bitcoin Talks, the webcasts and so forth. The different Bitcoin webcasts where there's actually really.
Oh, let's talk Bitcoin.
Here we go. There's a lot of optimizations that you can. I'm sorry. There's a lot of things you can use these. The distributed computing democratically elected model. One of the things that they were talking about was for voting. Correct?
Yes.
Helping rally votes. It's amazing during my campaigning in the 2004 election how the Diebold machines could not add one. Right? Like, give a vote, add one. And these are Diebold. But it was such a black box. And you couldn't see anything of what's going on in there. Part of the thing, one of the benefits of this being open source is you can actually use it for a lot of cool things.
Right. It's an open, right. The blockchain is an open distributed ledger.
Exactly.
Right? In a cryptocurrency context, it's recording transactions. Yeah. This part of this coin was given from this address to that address, and and the miners are like validating that they're getting rewarded for validating the transactions in that. Right, that transaction could be used for other things, perhaps votes or virtual corporations. It could be stocks, a percentage of a company, right?
That'd be interesting. I never thought of the virtual corporations one. I like the voting one. It seems interesting too. Like, at least it would be open and you could verify it. Like, where did my vote go to actually? And does it actually add up?
Right. Yeah, perhaps the addresses could be anonymized enough so you know it's a unique voter, but not necessarily what specific voter.
Or, I don't know, should who we vote for be so sensitive that we can't tell? Maybe that should be protected. I don't know. I have an advocacy for protection of privacy though, so.
And actually there's another coin, right? The there's a coin being used for distributed DNS.
Oh, I didn't know about the distributed DNS coin. See, this is why you need coin administrators to stay on top of all this stuff. The one I was excited about was Cure Coin, which the work you do goes to finding a cure for cancer using your GPU processing, and then you get awarded for that type of algorithm. So that was another good use of the blockchain.
And the Let's Talk Bitcoin podcast, which is a great podcast, they've even developed a coin to reward the people providing content, and even listeners. They'll have a special word, and if you email that in time, you'll get a bit of this coin. What's going to happen with that specific coin? Who knows? But,
right.
Yeah, it's just, I think there's some interesting uses of the blockchain that perhaps if this group thought about it.
That's a really good point. Thank you for bringing that up, actually. I totally missed other uses of the blockchain. Yeah, my area was on profitability and not doing good for mankind. I didn't think about that one.
I would assume that you look into nuclear power.
Of course.
So I will assume that you see the way it works is that nuclear power is 100%, and I think they would just limit the control rod, down to like maybe 80%, Let's say if you move next to it, you kind of look, why jack it up? Critical mass.
No.
I mean, it's like free energy, right? Like it's 100%. I mean.
Well, clearly there's other considerations there, and our nuclear power plants in the U.S. are pretty old. They're not the new Gen 4 models or Gen 3 models even largely, and we're not really upgrading them from what I've seen, and there's a strong anti-nuclear power movement, which is a real shame.
Right, and also the total cost of ownership isn't being factored into nuclear power plant. For example, if they put the entire cost of providing power to the Fukushima prefecture, right, they'd be charging a lot more now.
Mm.
And of course, arguably we're all paying for that.
Are you correct?
There's never been a reactor built that had a projected decommission cost.
Oh wow, hey, that's a good point.
They've never accounted for their decommission costs. Yet there is going to be a decommission of every reactor out there.
You would hope.
No,
yeah.
It isn't a matter of hoping. It's a matter of it runs out of control if you don't decommission it.
Right.
Yes, it has a serviceable life.
About 50 years max.
The metal brittleizes and all sorts of other things happen that you have to shut it down, otherwise it'll blow up.
Speaking of a serviceable life, if I'm understanding right, your main interest in the digital currencies is in setting up these systems to mine as fast as you can, as much as you can, until the hardware ceases to work or ceases to be of value, and then to do it again.
Kind of. RMA, keep it going. There is a big cost associated with that.
I see. But when you talk about milk rates costing too much, it makes me wonder, kind of on the scale, like how much do you reason that you lose in an hour if the system doesn't work?
So, good question, right? There's a couple of ways of looking at that. The best sane way is, what if all the coins I mined, I sold right now? I'm not doing a hold and sell later at whatever cost.
Really account for.
Yeah, that's all they can account for unless they got inside knowledge, right? So it really depends on how the market's been going. The 200 cards that we've had, even before we got to ASICs, were a lot more profitable per hour just 3 months ago than they are right now. So the market is actually at a pretty low point. So if I do go out for an hour, well, how long?
Yeah, an hour, let's say.
Not a lot. Like, seriously, I don't think over, not even 100, assuming the time we wasted too. Not just mining, but the time we spent trying to troubleshoot it and whatever.
So how often do you replace the video card?
It depends. So far, when it gets hot, we replace them a lot faster. So during the winter, we tend to replace them maybe 10 every 2 months, every 3 months, maybe replace 10. In the summer, if you get a massive heat spike and the cooling doesn't catch up right away, the weak cards will jump out. So
No, I don't mean about the failure of the vehicle. I'm talking about the obsolete.
oh, I see.
You know,
Luckily, we've been good at that because the ASICs, if they acted like the Bitcoin ASICs, which immediately killed the video card market, if it worked like that, it would have been obsolete. Luckily, because of the X11, X13, X15, and all these other algorithms that require video cards, they've actually kept their value quite a bit. I bought them, in November for $180 each shipped. I can sell them now about $100 plus shipping. So not bad. They've actually managed to keep their value, which was good. That was one of the reasons we gambled.
Earlier you talked about Ecuador. Quito, the key city in Ecuador, is like 9,000 feet high.
Wow.
Think about that.
Wow. So the lack of, the lack of air, how does that affect it?
Yeah, just temperature drops.
Temperature drops. Got it.
You have, those have sun to begin with, you want to play
Oh,
solar.
hey, there you go.
And no power to that, and at the same time, temperature variations are a little different.
Oh, that's good to know.
Although if the air is less dense, it won't carry away quite as much heat for the same volume.
That's a fair point.
True. You spoke a lot of different power options, where to find the cheapest power, but not much about different cooling options. Right now, it's a bunch of fans and outside air temperatures. It's a cooling option.
Thank God. We're in the upper
Have you looked
peninsula.
into anything from Peltier coolers to larger scale air conditioning?
Oh, Peltier, that would have been interesting.
Or liquid cooling, or especially when you're not hoping to get that much life out of this hardware, to use it and burn it.
Right.
Have you thought about,
We
submersion?
did. Submersion, yes. I wasn't comfortable with submersion personally. I don't have enough experience actually doing it on my day job or anything like that, so I didn't go with that.
Yeah, normally you wouldn't do it on something you want to get a longer life.
That was a very fair point, though. I think that would have been an even better cooling option, maybe the best one. There's a new type of oil that they've been using. Maybe it's not so new. That's been working really well for submersion, too. Yes, sir.
Venezuela has gas for 10 cents a gallon. Just FYI.
Thank you.
What are the variables in the market, and how does the volatility of the market affect your problems?
Tremendously. So the variables in the
Before
market.
you answer, I'm going to add one more comment.
Please.
Great question. I was thinking, asking you this question. Government regulations,
Yes, sir.
the market, what do you see happening, and how do you think it'll affect it in the future? Because government,
Sure.
they're going to.
That's a big variable.
That's a huge variable.
To talk about this whole area.
We'll deal with the short-term variables, and then we'll deal with the long-term government variable. Short-term variables are obviously coin density, how much coin there currently is in circulation. With Bitcoin, if you want to see the price of Bitcoin rise or drop, sometimes it's really funny. On certain exchanges, you see people trying to keep it at a certain price. Well, I remember like a month and a half ago, they were trying to keep it at 666. It was really funny. He said, nope, 666. Oh, nope, 666, But to actually really make an impact on the price of Bitcoin, you're talking millions of US dollars in volume to affect the price. That's how big it is now, the Bitcoin side. On the other side, earlier we were talking about making your own APIs for exchanges, right? That volatility is a lot smaller. Those smaller exchanges, if 3 people start doing that, that exchange will suffer, and you'll feel it. So it really depends on the volume of what you're talking about. But there is a good site, Bitcoin Charts, I think, that actually shows how much there is as far as volume goes. So who's buying, who's selling, how much of it is in circulation, and the hidden one, hype. Hype is really big. That's a big variable.
Is it distributed enough that it cannot be manipulated, or is there still room for manipulation?
From what I've seen, there's still a lot of room for manipulation, from what I've seen. Which makes me wonder, why wouldn't a Wall Street oligarch just dump it? I'm curious. Maybe they got better things to do with their money than waste it to dump Bitcoin that means nothing to them.
What kind of strategy do you play yourself? Do you hold it, or do you? Okay.
I sell enough to pay the operating costs, but I do try to hold and keep it as long as I can. I'm hoping by the end of the year we get higher prices, it's a big gamble. The fact that Dell recently now takes Bitcoins is pretty cool. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was a big deal.
Apple started accepting.
That's huge. I mean, it's cool now to pay for Bitcoin. That's big.
You get Beats headphones with your Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
As far as the government regulations go, it had a major impact immediately, and where it's going is probably not somewhere nice.
Well, didn't the IRS release some direction or something?
Yes.
I guess it was around April,
Right,
around
a week before taxes were due. 1 week, the Tuesday prior, I think they released it. I'm like, thanks, IRS.
And I think that it was most challenging for miners.
It really was. It was very challenging for us. So the new regulations basically treat it as a commodity, which means when you make the Bitcoin, that's how much the price of it is supposed to be. And then when you sell it, you have to calculate the difference in price
For that coin.
And then, well, when do you decide which coin are you selling at what point? That made it difficult a bit. I then immediately registered the domain name BTC-IRS. And yeah, like that day. I'll bet you want to find out what day it was. Let's see when we registered the domain name. And I started writing something that would go into the blockchain inside MySQL that we were loading it into, streaming it into, to find the wallet ID, find the low point and the high point, and then do your calculations and taxes for you. And a site that was doing other stuff released it before me. I really need to do things faster. So there's room for opportunity. There's a lot of room for opportunity, guys.
Here's another topic that I don't think you really covered. Security, right? There have been, I think recently, some pretty large individual users who had lost a lot of Bitcoin. And I don't know if miners get hit per se.
We do. It was so interesting you mentioned that. I was testing my machines in November again on Banked, and I put it on the DMZ, just my one machine, for my friend to remote control him from Michigan. Started having all kinds of weird issues. Within a couple of hours of putting it on my DMZ for testing, I was getting hacked. Wow. People are looking for BAMP distros with the default settings so that they can immediately come in and try to take your miner control immediately.
Right.
Like, it's just scouring the web for this.
Right. It's one thing for a hacker to break into grandma's Windows XP box and try and mine coin. Why not just hit the miners directly and take the coin straight away?
And BAMP was highly insecure, And then I saw how serious this really is when I saw that. It blew me away.
So I guess that's another interesting thing about Bitcoin is that there are offline wallets, paper wallets, and what have you, right? So for long-term storage, the stuff you're holding, you could keep it off the net.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's dark coins that you can even keep your activity off the net.
Where's your company going? Are you planning on building out more hardware, looking for investment? What's your plans?
Our plans, we're showing, all of our work has shown it's in the software and auto trading is where the big bucks are at. Mining is good and helpful if you can get people connected with distributors. I've made some connections. It's not competitive enough. I don't feel mining will be very profitable unless you get good distributors. If you do knock it out, destroy it, you'll make a lot of money. So right now I'm actually shifting to software. I'm working with a gentleman to do some auto trading to see if that'll help. I'm worried that the lifeline of auto trading is somewhat low. So I'm still looking at trying to optimize different layers currently and see where we can go with that. I think it's going to be in software.
So here's a fun question.
And yes, I'm open with working with people all over. Not just money, but talent too. Here's
a fun question that we could call the UUASC graybeard question.
Okay.
And this, I kind of prefaced that with our last meetup in 2011. Let's just say you had $3,000 to spend on a rig and associated systems. It just is a wild guess. Say we're going to have another cryptocurrency mining or cryptocurrency presentation in 2 years, assuming it's not, it goes the way of the Linux install fest. It's just standard stuff. What do you think the best investment is? That $3,000 should it just be spent on a coin, or put forward into some sort of a mining operation?
Absolutely. The mining operation takes a lot of time.
Right.
It's loud, it's noisy, there's a lot of variables, things break. Auto trading is where the money's been. Auto trade. Save
a pure software play.
Absolutely. Save $500 of it. Get word on a crazy new coin that might come out. When you find the right coin and you feel it's confident, buy $250 worth of hashing power right when it launches. When it launches, have your hashing power ready. That first hour of mining when a new coin is brought up is so profitable, it's insane. And mine it, follow the beat, and when it's time to dump.
How much of that is the hype of the new coin?
Of the money, or the money you make, yeah. So the volume that you make up front, whatever it's going to be worth in the future, you're right, a lot of it is hype, unless it's something like Blackcoin or Dogecoin that has something else backing it, right? So a lot of it is just pure hype, absolutely. A good chunk of these coins are at the end hype. And it's kind of sad to say that, but it's the sad truth. When you have 50 coins.
Yeah, so you have any site that gather all these maybe a dead coin?
Absolutely.
Like they can tell you, so they can tell you like it go up and then it
Absolutely. Bitcoin charts is great if you want to get really techy, but if you want to just get a quick look, do some quick analysis, Coin Wars is fast and easy. Coin Wars with a Z. Apparently it was made in the 80s.
So if you had a guess what, going off of Jordan's question, if you had a guess what the price of Bitcoin will be in 2017?
2017. Okay.
Just throw a number out there. What do you think?
Can we guess that the dollar has dropped another 10% by then?
Sure.
Okay.
Expressed in dollars, what do you think Bitcoin is?
Expressed in US dollars. Okay, assuming no crazy vulnerability comes out that makes it like useless.
Well, it's maybe if that's another thing we get into. If they say if there's an issue with with Bitcoin with the system, they can't be resolved. There has been challenges, right?
Right.
That they just fork the code.
That is true.
But we're assuming that if there's a fork, the coin could be transferred over.
But the problem is, what if the vulnerability is such where, like the Mt. Gox, that you can just generate coins out of thin air or steal coins? Or...
Well, but I think, the Mt. Gox was an issue with a particular exchange. Right?
Absolutely, it was.
There was so many coins went in and so many coins came out.
But
it's just they went to the wrong people.
It was still such a massive player in the market that it was almost
But the effect of the price, right?
It almost broke the market. It's his point.
No, I think the effect on Bitcoin price with the Mt. Gox failure was, I think it was like weeks or maybe months. The coin had recovered.
It did. Well, Mt. Gox.
It had the risk of totally killing the coin.
Well, the dollar's at risk too.
Yeah, it's a bit different though, dollar. But
so let's assume that neither the dollar nor Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, okay, but the thing I was getting at, there was that what we're talking about here is some sort of a software error, not with a particular exchange, because that will most likely that'll get resolved.
So let's take a look at the graph, right? The price was $850 before the Mt. Gox crash, before regulation, before Intel, before Dell, before Apple.
And China was in, right?
And China was all the way in. Bitcoin broke up with China. China broke up with Bitcoin. They got back together, broke up. Right? Price dropped to 350, went up, hovered around 600, came down. Apple did it. I'm going to say I think $1,000 might be a mental barrier for people for a long time, if it goes up that high.
They said the same thing about what Jones Industrial average
Uh-huh.
a long time ago.
They did, that's true. However, do keep in mind, we gave 24 to 28 trillion dollars of bailouts to the financial system at the end of Bush's term and Obama's term. So we did inject like crazy into another bubble. But yes, you do have a good point.
So you didn't answer my question though, if you had a guess.
Oh, I'd say I don't think
Say bump against the thousands.
I-
Say bump
You think it'll still be there in 3 years?
in 3 years, I hope so. I don't know, but
Well,
think
we're talking about
1,000.
2 years because we'll have you back talking to
yeah,
us
let's do
within
it.
2 years.
Let's see if it is. I don't see, because right, the thing with Bitcoin is they designed it to where you don't make more, although you could if you vote on the consensus, but assuming you don't, you just go more decimal places, right?
Yeah, you can split it up
You just
into.
keep trade. Now you trade Satoshis for $10.
And in a Satoshi is how much of a Bitcoin?
Isn't it like 1 to the 8th
It's,
of a
yeah, it's
decimal
8 decimal points below the zero.
So because of that, if it does get that high, I don't think it'll go more than that. Pure speculation. I don't have any business background. I'm just guessing. That's my guess. Well, what's yours? Let's see. I'm just curious.
Fair question.
Yeah, because I have a follow-up question for Eric in his.
No, it's a good question.
I know.
actually.
I'm
Yeah.
waiting for his answer.
I'll guess double.
Double. Okay, you could be right. I hope you're right.
And so here's another.
1200 or 60.
What's it going for right now?
Right now, 580 something today. It dropped today. So good time to buy maybe.
So 11,
That's
1260.
1200. Okay.
Yeah, so we're in the same category.
Same time.
We're talking 2
very
years.
nice.
So Eric, if you'd like to share with us, you were at the
Oh, wow.
2011.
I was
Oh,
there
wow.
when Jordan introduced a bunch of miners that were doing this on video cards that had all reached a point where they said that they would not get into it at that point because of how much.
Saturation.
Yeah, if they were to start again, but because they already own the hardware and could get their hands on the hardware, it was so hard to get their hands on
Yes.
that it was still profitable for them. And I think at least 2 of those 3 guys were living off of it, if I recall.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That's good for them. Yeah, because $40 was when people said this is a bubble.
Their stuff would be worth, their equipment would be worth nothing in terms of
Yeah.
mining capacity now.
Right, so that's where I was thinking, what if you just took the money you would spend on a rig and just put it in Bitcoin, took it offline, hit it for 2 years?
Just like the auto trade.
No, like not even auto trade, just bury it.
Dump it.
In the mattress.
And then your only risk is the collapse of that.
Exactly.
See, I was the doubter back then. That's why Jordan's pointing at me.
Oh,
Because I said, well, why not just put that money into Oracle or Microsoft or any of these other companies that have over a long term?
Well, I think you had a few reasons why it didn't work. Wasn't it a few? Like,
I might have had a few critiques.
yeah, like maybe if one of his reasons against it was like $1, his reasons were more than the price of Bitcoin at the time.
okay.
So
Fair point.
Well, I think I saw a lot of reasons why I would have a hard time becoming adopted.
yeah,
Yeah, no, it was fair.
Largely rotating around the masses and their inability to manage their money even when it's they have the help of banks to keep them from doing incredibly
Right.
stupid things, to insure them to some extent. Trusting them that if they lose their hard disk, they lose, $200,000, maybe not. But most people don't make very good sysadmins in general.
Right.
So they can't be trusted to run backups of their own system
Right.
or do anything consistent
Not of the
like
sort,
that.
no.
So do we want to recommend that they save all their money on their hard disk? What most of that revolves around.
well, maybe at this point, cryptocurrencies are really used for business-to-business transactions or for more educated or sophisticated users.
Possibly. I'm sure hosted wallets will be a thing at some point.
Right, yeah, and that could be a next thing to change the prices, where
Yeah.
there are little devices that
Yeah.
can handle the security and the ease of use
Well,
and
we don't
security.
lose those devices. So what we learned from Mt. Gox is that, we need a big bank to help us manage this stuff, but we can't trust any of these offshore companies
Yeah.
in the first place.
Keep that in mind, though. A wallet, great area that you could possibly make some good money. And the market is very okay with you charging 1% if you're doing mining optimizations or pools or anything like that. They don't care if you take
He's
1%.
taking the attitude of 1849. Don't be the miner, be the guy who supplies the shovel.
Exactly.
I'm taking the attitude that what will legitimize it and stabilize it and make it a tool for the masses is when the actual financial services gets involved. And they say, we're going to just, every bank will be like, okay, you want a Bitcoin account or a dollar account? That's fine.
That's a very fair point too. Although, boy, there's a lot of regulation before we get there, but I agree. They should learn how first and then right away.
On the new driver, on the new video card, how much time do you spend on upgrading the driver?
Oh, it's part of our base image. We actually Pixie Boot, which is a network booting support software.
No, I mean you hire people to write the optimizing of the driver, whatever.
I haven't done that. The actual manufacturers release the updates, or the community for Linux.
No, I mean you're saying making you can make money in driver. Those people, how much time do they spend on fixing the driver?
That's a very good question. Some of the gentlemen here who might have experience with that could answer that. I'm sure it's a full-time job for multiple developers.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah, I know we have members that do embedded system stuff, more like for airline industry and stuff like that. So yeah. But I think what you're getting at is there's some demand there. Who knows at what rate?
You and then you, sir. Isha, thank you.
The entry door has already been opened. The travel cards currently load anywhere between 4 or 5 currencies, 10 currencies.
Wow.
Like I think BNA in Australia up to 10 currencies. They all have other cash cards. So, and in August they started charging 1% fee for loading those cards and currencies. So the door has been open.
Wow.
What you said?
You said this.
You said this was a travel card. What's a travel card?
If you go to TravelX and talk to them about their travel cards, they'll teach you. And also, certain banks now have it. Like
you're talking about nationalized currencies. You're not talking about any existing digital currencies being supported yet.
No digital currencies. They're all normal currencies. You can load Australian dollars, American dollars.
There's a lot of banks that will do also that are involved in foreign currency exchange transactions. When I lived in Mexico, I found all the banks allowed you to have a peso account and a dollar account. But we're not seeing any of these large banks get involved with Bitcoin.
Not yet.
Correct. The Bitcoin not yet, but the door with the travel cards has been open for multiple directions from several banks, in fact. So several banks also
that route.
The travel agencies.
That would be great.
That's where it's going to come in.
Yes, sir.
What was the effect on the supporting belief that Bitcoin is viable of the government selling a whole bunch of them that they confiscated?
Right. That was very interesting. I don't know what the effect of that per se was. It was a rough time because power was due and the price dropped from the amount of coins they released. So that part hurt me a little bit, but it did cause a short-term price drop. And then people found the government's wallet ID based on the trading patterns and so forth and published it. So that was pretty funny. And then, if it affected me, and I'm not a big-time guy, to where I'm thinking, okay, are they selling now? When's a good time to sell? I'm sure it affected other big players way more than me.
How did it affect the psychology? The federal government actually said this was a object of value. Because before they were saying this is a non-currency, you cannot do trading in the United States with this non-currency. The only legitimate legal tender is the U.S. dollar in U.S. commerce. That was their party line, was that there was no such thing as anything other than real things like dollars and euros.
Right.
And they used the currency.
No, they sold an object that was confiscated.
Yeah, dunking it, I don't know if that counts as really legitimized.
No. Yeah, but that's the point. They actually sold it for dollars.
That's
just like they would sell a confiscated car, a confiscated house, a confiscated anything else. They sold a bunch of Bitcoin.
So that's still a step away from them saying this is a legitimate currency. It's them saying, here's a government asset, which
Yeah, the buyer bought it.
The buyer legitimized it, not so much the seller. Is that what we're saying?
The seller admitted that there was some value to it.
I would agree, though. It did show that there is some value too, but not so much as.
So it was, if there was any effect, it was just a blip, and everybody was looking at their wallets and seeing if their wallets dropped for a while.
That's what I noticed more in the forums and so forth and the community. I didn't see the other side. That's a very good question. I didn't see that. Any of you guys who read the Bitcoin forums see that? I didn't. But good question. I didn't even think about that psychology of
So
it.
personally, why did you worry? You knew this activity was going on. You knew it had a limited time frame.
Because I had to pay power in 3 days.
You had a cash flow.
I had a cash flow problem.
That you had to have.
And you know, it takes 2 days to get the money from Coinbase.
That makes sense is that exchanges are legal. You can trade a house for a house,
Right.
a tree
But
for a house, and
you
so
have
on.
to account for that at a valuation that the government accepts. Barter is
That's a good
acceptable
point.
when it is recorded in dollars exchange. Then you have to pay your IRS and you have to pay your state, whatever they think those dollars make you owe them.
But you agree that exchanges are legal.
So does the
Anything-
government. So
anything
does the
for anything.
government.
Yes.
But the government says it has to be written down in legal tender terms in order for it to be a legitimate exchange that we will allow to happen. Otherwise, if you continually do barter, we're going to start looking at what you're doing, and we're going to start taking you in under some of our regulations.
Can I say how much you pay for the space over
The
there?
space is cheap, $700 for like
Then what?
3,000 square feet
But you
by
made
a
it
power
sound like-
plant in the middle of nowhere.
You made it sound like you're using about 2 racks worth of space.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it, right? We actually distributed these across multiple areas because they give so much power. And it's so much heat.
You generate heat,
Multiple
your
areas
drawings.
of the building?
Yeah, multiple rooms in the building because each room only has, like, depending on the room, 1 or 2 windows, and we duct the cooling from the windows in. So in this case, we were planning on expanding capacity quite a bit. We weren't able to increase power, so we used it for cooling efficiency. But yes,
So
you're
if
right.
this stuff were all mounted in a 19-inch rack, you know, a full height 19-inch rack, how many racks would it take up?
Oh, Jesus. I have not even thought about that.
I'm just
well-
trying to get a picture, because you didn't show us any pictures of what the
Yeah.
whole thing looks like.
Yeah. So 10 each side, and that's about 3 U's. No, more than 3 U's. 2 U's is about that high.
He uses an
4 use a standard PC size.
4 U as a standard PC size.
Yeah, standard case used to be.
You know, 1 using it, right?
If you
Yeah.
can, if you can.
One unit, I thought it was 1.75.
Yeah.
Monty, how big is one rack unit? How many inches?
It's like 1.5 inches or
Okay.
something
That's what it
thereabouts.
was, yeah.
So I mean, it could be 1.7.
I'm just trying to visualize
Yeah.
roughly how big is this?
10.
So a typical rack is 72 U's, you know, a large
Yeah.
rack. So, you know.
Well, the other one is he was hanging the
Five
card.
racks.
He's hanging the cards weird
Oh,
too.
that's true.
So
We
all
are-
the stuff is about 5 racks worth of material
Yeah,
and a bunch of
equivalent.
tabs.
I guess the
Lot,
question
yeah.
is, if you shipped it somewhere, how many boxes would
Oh,
it
that's
take?
a fair point too.
You
You
know,
don't have
as
to
a-
get them shipped via pallet, so I don't know. But no, interesting questions. You guys are asking all kinds of stuff I did not think of.
Well, hey, I think, does anybody else?
Yes,
So
sir.
just about review kind of the NVIDIA coming back. I mean what about the shortage of video card?
That's gotten
Supply.
much better because the new miners, SG miner, the new other ones that we talked about.
They're non-Bitcoin algorithms, right?
Exactly.
Non-SHA-256 type algorithms.
Exactly. So NVIDIA is now supported. ATI last month made a comment about their distribution chain where it's a lot better now. And we're seeing prices drop, which means that it's finally getting much better, especially now that NVIDIA is also supported. Good question, too. Wow, what a great crowd. Thank you, everybody. I really enjoyed getting to talk to you guys.
Yeah, hey, let's have a round for Ollie.
Round for you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming and putting
My
together
pleasure.
a well-detailed presentation and also being willing to share your experience.
Absolutely.
Right, and plus your background as DBA. I'm sure you've worked with Unix systems for a long time. right? And so this is a kind of a cool progression.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. Thank you.
And complement your day work as well. So, yeah, and everybody, thanks for coming out to UAC. Also remember, if you haven't already, please join our email list at uasc.org. And also thanks to Q for hosting, and Carolyn at Q for hosting UUAC once again. Hopefully we'll see you back here or somewhere the first Thursday of next month. And now we'll move over to the foreign grill for more discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I had a good time.
One note.